on to our third question, familial history of cancer and the ketogenic diet for prevention. So Clint writes in, "Hey Rob, when I look back into my family history, a boatload of people have had various forms of cancer. We've run the gamut of colon cancer, breast cancer, cervical cancer, etc. I've listened to quite a few podcasts with Dominic D'Agostino in regards to the ketogenic diet as a tool in the toolbox for combating cancer and lessening the effects of chemo. I've also heard on various podcasts the use of periodic multi-day fasts to help expunge faulty cells from the body in hopes for cancer prevention. I've been looking into these methods of cancer prevention and wanted your 2 cents on the matter. I'm 32 years old, 6'2" and 180 pounds. I'm an endurance athlete, run, coach, and compete in races from 5K to 100 miles. If in your opinion these are good tools in regards to helping keep cancer at bay, at what age should I start implementing them? How would I go about balancing a ketogenic diet and being an endurance athlete without completely frying my adrenals? I'm not necessarily against reassessing my performance goals to include goals of health and longevity. It's not like I'm being paid to be an upper-midpack runner. Thanks for all you do. Really looking forward to the new book."
So clearly this one's a little bit of an old question, but a good one.
Still very relevant.
So I pulled up a Medium post. So this is not a scientific paper, but it was a really nicely written article that references a number of people that are quite knowledgeable in this space, including Dr. Ted Naiman. So some of his work is referenced in here. And Ted makes an argument that a sweet spot for intermittent fasting, specifically for autophagy, which is really the big important thing in this story in my opinion, from a cancer prevention standpoint, is about 18 to 24 hours. And so I could make an argument that maybe once a week we do an 18 to 24 hour fast, maybe every 10 to 14 days, something along that line. Dr. Thomas Seyfried also makes the case that maybe once or twice a year we do a longer fast, as long as perhaps 3 to 5 days. But what's interesting to me in all this stuff is we have the potential of getting some kind of compounded benefits from a variety of things. We know for a fact, and let me back up a little bit. The reason why autophagy is so important in this story is that damaged cells tend to go through a process called senescence, where they're still technically alive, but they're not really beneficial. They tend to kick off a lot of pro-inflammatory signaling molecules, and they tend to, it's kind of like one bad apple spoiling the whole bunch, that one cell can then make all the cells around it senescent, and it tends to kind of propagate from there. And there's most likely a mitochondrial and metabolic underpinning for this whole process. And this is where ketosis or fasting, or ketosis and fasting, can be really beneficial, because it's shifting the fuel substrates and the oxidative environment in such a way that it's beneficial for healthy cells and not so good for damaged or senescent cells. So what we're trying to do is get out in front of that potential cancer process, reset the healthy cells to an even healthier, younger kind of profile, intervene in the damaged cells and not let them go forward. There is likely going to be some pool of cancer, some variety of cancers that are benefited either singly or in combination therapy with a ketogenic diet. And there is almost certainly, there's good data to suggest that a ketogenic diet is likely negative or non-beneficial, possibly antagonistic towards other cancers. It is not going to benefit one to do those. And so it is not a one-size-fits-all kind of approach. You need to... we have lots of research underway. We're going to learn more about this as time goes on. But I could make a pretty strong argument that the fact that you are highly physically active, if we were to do a little bit of fasted training, drink some coffee, maybe take some resveratrol, lift some weights, again, do some physical activity in a fasted state, do a little bit of cyclic intermittent fasting, that's moving things in a really good direction. And all of those things tend to enhance cellular autophagy. And so, again, that could be something where maybe day to day, it's pretty easy to do a 16-hour fast. And then maybe once every, 10 days, you do an 18 to 24-hour fast, maybe once or twice a year. You get into a fully ketogenic state and you do maybe a 3 to 5 day fast. I think that is doing some really incredible work as far as preventing the possibility or the probability of developing cancer. And then the other features, getting adequate sleep, adequate vitamin D, and all those types of things. I did also, in the show notes, include a paper from Lauren Cordain, Scant Evidence of Periodic Starvation Among Hunter-Gatherers. What this paper makes the case for is that intermittent eating was almost certainly kind of baked in the cake of our ancestral past, but extended periods of starvation, like out beyond probably about 24 to 48 hours, was actually pretty rare in the ancestral environment. And it's not to say that we shouldn't do that occasionally, particularly considering how overfed we all generally are in the modern world. But from an evolutionary biology standpoint, it's probably not super credible that we had a ton of experience for extended fasting. So that's, again, my kind of long-winded response to that.
Our next question is kind of similar, but I want to touch on this with Clint because he mentions he's an endurance athlete. So when you're suggesting that he potentially does, a longer fast every 10 to 14 days or whatnot, would that be a day that he does not train?
The next question actually does basically ask this. The one thing I probably wouldn't do is super hard intervals, CrossFit type workout. I could make an argument for some, maffetone heart rate, like 140 beat per minute, aerobic pace activity, maybe lifting some weights. But that is not the day to go for a personal record, most likely. That is probably not the day.
Or a super long distance run, maybe more of like a recovery mobility.
Yeah, recovery mobility day makes a lot of sense. I know some people do hit it really hard on during that fasted training window, and some people report some good benefits. There is apparently some good benefits in the literature, but you and I, having run a gym, like we've seen people just bury themselves with this. They do it too often, too hard. Again,
more is better.
More is better. And the people who have a tendency to do intermittent fasting and CrossFit and low carb, like the profile ends up being that they do 6 CrossFit classes a week. They do recovery by doing Ashtanga yoga for 2 hours a day. They eat 5 grams of carbs a month, and they intermittent fast 22 hours a day every day. And this person wonders why they have like non-detectable levels of sex hormones and their hair has fallen out. They just have burned the candle at both ends.